am Negan.
I am Negan.
Yo, what's up, people? Welcome to another episode of I Am Negan, a TWD Universe podcast. That's right, we cover everything Walking Dead, especially the shows. There's a lot going on with the shows, and that's what we're about to talk about. We are up to Season 10, Episode 19, One More. I am your host, Adam Vale. Tonight I'm joined by Richard Bailey Jr.
What's up, listeners and viewers?
And who else is with us? Carlos!
Yo, what's going on, people?
All right, people. This is it. This is the episode we've all been waiting for. Yes, sorry. No, not really. But you know what? We knew what we were getting. When the showrunners and everyone talked about, well, we got 6 episodes coming and they're Walking Dead light in regards to the content and stuff, but it's still heavy on the story. And you know what? That's cool with me. That I'm okay with it if the story fits. And man, this one, they made it fit. You know, they squeezed it in there. So before we get into it, just want to thank everybody for subbing up on Spotify and iTunes and saying nice comments on Twitter and doing all of that jazz. That's always cool. We had some good feedback, right, Rick? Some people feeling this. That's always good. You know, I'm glad to see that people are still sticking with The Walking Dead. It's not dead. You know, if we could have all those, and I brought up before, show the Law and Order's 5-6 different spin-offs, and the NCIS, why can't we have a zombie one? Why can't we do that? We can. We can if we support it, and that's just watching it. Watch it. Watch the content. Plenty of content. AMC, I don't think we brought it up, but they talked about it, was it last month, that they have like 7 million subs on AMC Plus, which is amazing because I really don't hear many people talking about it besides, you know, people that are following some of their content. You don't really see ads or anywhere for it, but that's great. That's great news. That just shows people are interested. There's other things on there, so go ahead and check that out. But yeah, let's get into this. This one was another standalone, I would say. That's what I'm going to put them. I'm going to put them like a standalone. If people know, when you read comics, you'll have the lining story that goes throughout a trade, but then it's sprinkled in some standalone episodes that are just side stories, sidetracked. We saw the last one with Daryl and Carol, and now here we go with Father Gabriel and Aaron. Wasn't expecting it. Whatever. You know, so we'll just jump right into it. It starts off with the scavenging. We see Father Gabriel. He whips out a list. This is a list that he said Maggie gave him of spots to go and get supplies. I have a problem right off the bat when I saw this because I'm like, Maggie says she bounced and she left to all these other areas outside of that vicinity, which from what I understand, is still Georgia, right? They're still in the Georgia area. Not just for the show, but within that universe. Isn't that where they're at?
No, well, Maggie left beyond Georgia. I don't know if Gabriel and Aaron are in the state.
That's what I'm saying. She left beyond.
I think it was kind of, yeah.
But then they're following a list. I'm like, you can't be that far out.
Well, it's a map. It was a map, I think. Was it a map?
Yeah, it was a map. It was a map showing locations, and that's why I was
like,
well, you got Aaron who was talking about, well, maybe we can go back now. Let's just follow the path. He didn't say anything about, it's going to take 2 or 3 days to get back, you know, to Alexandria. He didn't mention that. I wish he would have, because then I would have put in more context of where they were, because we've heard this before from even the last episode when Daryl was talking about just exploring, that they've seen all the spots that there is, and he's, of course, because you've been in that area for a few years now, you know, over a decade if you count within there in story time. So I don't know, that part sort of threw me off because I was like, all right,
It's really, it's kind of ambiguous, like where they're at, because I mean, they mentioned that they've been at it for 2 weeks or over 2 weeks, and who knows, maybe they went, you know, north and then they went across the south, and who knows where they're at or how, if they're in the same state. But to me, it feels like they're relatively close by, maybe a day or two, you know, walk to Alexandria. What I would assume?
That giveaway is the scenery, the environment. It looks like they're just a few blocks away from Alexandria. That's just, you know, it is what it is. But you know what? It's fine. They're exploring. They're looking around. They're trying to find resources and doing the typical searching cars and stuff. Now, Aaron, for some reason, he's done. He's ready to go back. But no, Gabriel wants to keep going. Wants to keep looking. He's like, no, one more, and that's the title of the episode. One more. Where are we gonna go? He's like, well, let's go to the water tower. Let's go do that. On the way there, he falls down. What was it? It was like a puddle or some sort, a mud hole that he fell into, and there was a walker in there.
Yes.
Right? That was kind of interesting. I don't remember seeing something like that. I thought maybe he would sink in, like maybe it was like a quicksand or something, because it came out of nowhere. They were just walking, and sort of bloop, plop down. Walker's in there. You woke him up. They do this whole little song and dance, and they take that one out. But the cool part of this is, as they're en route, starts raining, and the map is destroyed. And Aaron's like, yeah, I'm done. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this.
I mean, and it conveniently rained right afterwards. It's like, oh, we're all dirty.
Yeah.
Now we're clean.
Now we're clean. All right, so then they were like, all right, well, let's keep looking at within the area. And then that's when they find that shack. That was a pretty cool looking setup. Something about it. I liked it. I don't know. I was like, oh, this isn't your typical log cabin or rundown looking area.
It reminded me of speaking of Fear the Walking Dead, what's the dude? It's like the Hispanic dude. He's in a shack by himself, where they needed the plane parts. Remember that one?
Yeah. Ruben Blades, Daniel.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of that one a little bit.
Yeah.
Not as well equipped, of course, but
yeah, but it was pretty. It was interesting. They get there and they kill one walker. They try to pull him out and they rip his arms off. That was pretty interesting. They had a little scene there, and then he climbs on. Gabriel climbs on the roof and he looks down. He sees there's a room and there's a boar, and when I saw that, I'm like, all right, there's gonna be something happening. When I read the tagline for this episode, it talked about tragedies, and I'm like, all right, well, we got one-eyed Gabriel over here, and we got one-armed Aaron with the robo arm, but still, it's not fully robotic. He's not cyborg or anything with it. So I was like, maybe something's gonna happen, because this looks too much like a setup. You climb up top, and he's like, oh, we want to go down there and find some things, and he was like, oh yeah, we could do that, but right there, that should have been a giveaway that somebody's there, somebody's living there, and we'll get more into that. But once they go inside, they're looking around. They find some goodies, but the main thing that Gabriel finds is whiskey. And he gives this whole backstory about how this is very old whiskey, and gives Aaron a lesson on how to drink this old whiskey. You got to sniff it. You got to think about things and and all that stuff. But the surprising part here, when I paused it, I was like, why did they pick Gabriel for this scene? Because we know the first thing that anyone's going to say is like, well, how does Gabriel know so much about whiskey? He's supposed to be a person of God. He wants to play cards and do all this stuff. Why put him in this place when you could have grabbed anyone else of the cast members to fill this role? But they do this so they can do this really long, kind of boring backstory. I mean, Carlos or Rich, if you want to get into this backstory.
Well, to give a little bit of context of the whole overall macros part of the show, and just sort of how I felt each time, like through each minute of the show, I was kind of not liking it. I was like, okay, this is kind of interesting, but it's like I see what you're doing. You're trying to build character, but it's kind of same old. And then they reached the part that we're going to speak about later. And I'm like, oh, please don't do what I think you're gonna do. And they do the complete opposite, and then I ended up loving the episode. So it's interesting because we have to build these characters. One of the issues that I have with a lot of shows that have a big cast is not everyone gets their due.
Oh yeah,
and
it's almost impossible. Wow.
It is almost impossible. And with a show like this that's almost ending, it feels like we're so close to the end, but not really, because it's going to get stretched out. Mm-hmm. It's good to see that they're, showing more of their characters. Learning about Gabriel and why he knows a lot about whiskey, and the part with the priest that he used to be in the same parish with.
Yeah, it was like his mentor or something. He was like in one of the older ones.
So it's good to see him just. Because, when we first saw him, he was a man of God, and he was fearful to survive. Mm-hmm. He was ready to give up.
But he was also very regretful because he closed off the church, remember? And he left everybody outside because he was scared. and that he felt like he had a lot of guilt from that. And when that didn't come up at all in this, and that was surprising because I thought maybe this is when he was going to tell Aaron, because Aaron wasn't there around that time when they found him. So I thought maybe he was going to say, "Well, this is how I know because I had a lot of guilt and I locked out my parish, and when they all turned to war because I didn't help anybody, and I just drank, and that's how I know." But no, he gives this crazy story about going on this weird adventure binge with one of the other ministers or priests, and I think it had something to do with there was someone that died of cancer, right? There was something. There was somewhere. It
was a funeral.
It was a funeral. Yeah. This is how they were dealing with it. He was like, "Let loose." They like took off the garb. He's like, "Let's just. That's it. We gotta let loose. We're stressed." And then that's it. They played some cards and they drank. This is Aaron and Gabriel, and they're doing it in a moment. And I guess they decided to stay. And I guess it makes sense because of the situation. But they cooked this boar. I would have liked to see that process because I'm like, what instrument? I mean, that's a bloody mess. It's a lot. It's a lot going to kill something that's that big, that alive. Whatever. I'm thinking too much into it. But real quick, right after that, they just almost like what did they say? Completely intoxicated, but they're feeling good. They're feeling good.
I would say they were trash because they finished that whole bottle, man. That's
true.
Two people, one bottle. That's too much, man.
That's true. And this part gets a little interesting because there is a lot of back and forth chatter about certain things, good and evil type of thing. What do you deal with? Who do you protect? Why are you doing certain things? And I was sort of drifting off, but then it all comes back full circle when we get to it. But just throwing some of the key parts is that he starts talking about, Gabriel starts talking about why he does what he does and why he wants to keep going forward. And then Aaron talks about how he likes going out to find people to help them. And that was a big part. And he missed doing that. And that was the other reason why he's out there. And it's like, oh, okay. They're connecting on those type of things. He's like, not everybody's bad, but there's a lot of bad people and you can't bring those back. And sort of to paraphrase what Gabriel was saying. And when he started talking like that, I was thinking, well, maybe he's going to bring up Negan. Maybe he's going to bring up his feelings toward Negan now that Negan is out. And Negan, the way we already discussed how we feel on Negan. Mm-hmm. So it seems like I thought he was going to go in that route, but he didn't, right? And I guess because we're setting up for the next scene. So shortly after that, they're just laying back, and then Aaron's like, "Hey, I got to go take a leak." He leaves, but Gabriel is half passed out, so he's like, "All right, whatever." Doesn't realize time. What a good amount of time. A few hours have passed, and once he gets up, there we go. Who do we got, Rich? This is your boy. Who's there?
We have Robert Patrick, a.k.a. the T-1000 from Terminator 2. The same actor. Now playing a different character.
We never know.
Yeah, I was surprised when I heard that. I didn't know it was him until like 5 minutes before the show started recording. I was like,
yeah.
It was like, what? That's him?
And it was pretty interesting when he showed up, the way he showed up, because usually when something like this, it's very, it's always like a hostile, some crazy, maybe they attack. I was expecting Gabriel to get hit in the head or something like that. None of that. The guy's just there and he just starts talking to him, further down in the hallway. And Gabriel's like, oh, okay, not too sure what to expect. And then it cuts, and then when it comes back, he's sitting at a chair, and the guy's holding a gun, and he's talking about, like, what are you doing here? And he's like, well, we were just looking around, and he's like, oh, you didn't think anyone lived here? You didn't see the live boar here? You didn't see all the supplies? You didn't? Oh, well, we were minding our own business. We did. And then that's when I started triggering. I was like, that's the first thing I thought of when I saw everything was contained in that area. I'm like, yeah, there were that Walker could have died or whatever, but the fact that all these supplies are still there, like, then how did that person die? What's going on? There's got to be somebody else. And plus, it's a Walking Dead. It's an episode. Something has to happen. All right. So I was like, yeah, there's going to be somebody there. So he gives that whole spiel about it, and he's like, well, where's Aaron? He's like, oh, this, and he whips out the arm, and I'm like, oh, he killed him. This is it. Yeah. He took him out. That's a way to do it. He's like, yeah, you want to see your buddy? I got a piece of him. Boom, right on the table. And it made a good thump on it, too, so I didn't realize that arm, robo arm, was that heavy, but kudos to the guy who did the audio effects, because it definitely sounded heavy. RoboCop type. Yeah, so he gives him this whole speech about what is he doing here, and they go back and forth, and then eventually he wheels in. because that was it. The one part, and I felt it was kind of pointless because they didn't go further when he was pointing his was it like assault rifle over to Gabriel, and Gabriel's like, you're not gonna shoot me to that effect because bullets are rare. It's like what bullet? It's just he's just spraying up the wazoo of the wall behind him. And I was like, you know what? You can show off, but Gabriel's right. Bullets are rare unless you have a Eugene somewhere in the back making bullets for you. Where are you getting your bullets? But then I was thinking maybe this is it. This is where this character is going to come to play in the future episodes. Maybe he is a military guy who has a bunker that they showed off a few seasons back on The Walking Dead. They found a bunker with all kinds of things. So I was like, maybe he has his own bunker. Maybe this is a survivalist guy. And this is going to be crazy. And who knows? All right? Because he definitely doesn't have anybody else. At least from what we know at this point. So before I go any further, you guys want to jump in? Is there anything that you noticed from this whole scene, this interaction? Because it was kind of long before he wheeled in Aaron.
Yeah, just to go back to your thoughts of, possibly people living there, I thought the boar was a dead giveaway. I mean, how do you have a boar alive? We're thinking that boars can only live a couple of days or a couple of, without water or food. Mm-hmm. So why was it there? They didn't really question that. It was just, okay, we're going to eat it. That was a dead giveaway for me. Maybe it was infected. Who knows? Maybe shit.
Right.
So
zombie boar.
But yeah, the dude looked menacing. I mean, like he had like the scars and stuff on the side of his face. He had the machine gun. He had a pistol. I don't even know if he pulled out the pistol by then, but
he was ready for war. Like that was the other thing. I was like, because we'll get to it. In fact, keep going. We'll get to it.
Yeah, and then I was thinking, where the hell? What happened? What happened to Aaron? And then he mentioned he took out the arm, and I was just thinking, it's like, what does he have to do with the story? Is he someone that is going to eventually join the Alexandria crew? Is he just a stepping stone to something else? And we eventually figured out what, but that's all that was crossing my mind. I was just thinking, what is this character going to serve? What purpose is he going to serve? And he looked badass too. I'm like, damn, if he's going to join the Alexandria crew, I'm like, damn, if the Whisperers come back, I'll be scared for them.
Yeah, and he's gonna get. And as an action figure collector, I looked up. I was like, I could see a figure coming out for this guy. He's got all the little pieces you would want, all the accessories, like you said, a sidearm and everything. But then at this point, he gets bored of just talking to him, and then he wheels Aaron in. And this is where it gets interesting because he plays a game. If I'm pretty sure this is called Russian roulette when they do it this way. Where he takes a gun and he takes it out and he it's a revolver, 6-shooter, puts one bullet in, spins it around, puts it on the table, says, all right, either shoot yourself or you shoot the guy across. And they're like, Gabriel's the first to go. He's like, no, I'm not doing this. And he's like, you got to do it or else I'm just going to shoot both of you. Aaron points out the obvious and a good question too. He's like, well, who's to say you're not going to kill us anyway? He's like, I'm to say that. I say it, so just do it. And it goes into like a back and forth of them pretty much Gabriel's trying to talk to him and say, listen, I'm a person, and that was one of the parts I didn't bring up because whatever. But when he notices that there's a bunch of Bibles, and he tries to see if the guy's religious and starts to play with, hey, you're religious, you got the Bible, that's why I still wear, the cloth, I still follow, blah blah blah. And he says, no, that's my toilet paper. And I was like, I don't use it to read. It's all BS. That's my TP, buddy. So anyway, that was a little earlier, but it's good to mention because at this point, Gabriel's really trying to connect. He's trying to preach. And that was one of the things that Aaron told him. You need to get back into preaching. And he was like, I'm done with that. That was a past. It was a different time. But we see he's using that preaching charm here on this character. We're not going to say his name yet. And he's like, hey, listen, we're good people. We come from a good community. You don't have to be out here alone. You don't have to deal with this. Yes, it looks like you've had a hard life. We're sorry for killing your boar and eating it, but we got plenty of other resources and people and this and this and that. No, he doesn't buy it. He says, you know what? There's no good people. There's no good people. And this is where he gets into this little story. He says about his brother, that it was him, his brother, and the brother's wife and kid. I don't know if it was a boy or girl. Can't recall. And he says that somewhere during the middle of the night, he woke up and his brother's trying to steal food. His food. And he was like, so what did you do? And Gabriel said, he was like, oh, I took care of it. It's like, oh shit. And he said, but that was the breaking point for him. It's like, when my own flesh and blood is stealing from me, then there's nothing good out there.
Yep. And when he said that, I was like, yeah, you're gonna kill your brothers and your brother's family, because he said taking care of, because he stole food. This is your brother you're speaking of. I mean, I know food is scarce and stuff, but is that enough to warrant killing your brother and his family? And that's why I'm like, this guy, you can't take this guy back. He's got some issues.
Yeah, he had some issues, and then even that part I didn't really understand that, and I thought maybe that was all a BS story. Because I'm like, well, you got a boy here, so obviously you know how to hunt and trap and stuff. So I don't see why. I can understand if you're not keen or you don't have the know-how to do those type of things. You're not a hunter. Then, yeah, you're scavenging for canned goods and food is scarce. But it looks like he knows what he's doing, and I'm sure his brother did too. I don't know. I thought it was all BS when he said that right off the bat. But anyway, they're going back and forth. So Gabriel grabs the gun. He was like, all right, here we go. Takes a shot toward himself, of course, because he's Gabriel. And no bullet. He's okay. They put the gun down. This goes back and forth. He goes over to Aaron's turn. Aaron does the same thing. They still have a little more back and forth conversations with this character, who we still won't name his name. And it was a lot of people just trying to convince him that there are still good people in the world. And we'll just get to it, because now this little segment here went a little bit too long, but I understand what they were trying to do. This is really about building up Gabriel and to what tricking us big time. He does have the gift for the gab, and so they're doing the whole thing back and forth, and then it's like, all right, no, that's not gonna happen. This is it, and he gives it to Aaron, the gun, the revolver. Now it looks like it. I mean, it's only down to like 2 shots or something like that. It's a good chance he's gonna die by taking this shot. And he says, what are you gonna do? And this is when they found out that he's been listening to them the entire time when they were just drinking and playing cards and stuff, because he said, what about your daughter? Don't you want to go and see your daughter? And once he threw that line out, I was like, shit. Aaron was like, damn, yeah, I do want to see my, but fuck, this guy's been listening in and stuff. It's like, all right, well, but it's either that or shoot at Gabriel, but he's not going to do that. So he's going to take the chance. So he points it at his head, and that's when this guy is like, no. All right, I guess he's got good people, because the guy's about to kill himself for his daughter. He's like, you know what? He takes the revolver, puts it down, goes over. He frees up Aaron, goes around, frees up Gabriel. He's like, all right. He's like, well, my name is Maze, and boom, bonk in the head. The guy drops. You see Aaron's face. They made like a splat noise. It was like a... Yeah. It was kind of weird. Aaron's like, what's happening? Aaron's like, we couldn't take him with us. This guy's great. I mean, he's just cold, stone face, and I just jumped up, and I was like, that was great. I did not see that coming. That was a great way of just showing that, you know what, he could preach, but he could also pull a good poker face, and it paid off. It worked, and the fact that he just kills him, he didn't even think about, because remember, this for a long time, Gabriel didn't want to do anything harm. He didn't want to deal with it. He was like, oh no, I'm religious, and this and this and that. He played that whole card for a long time, sort of like how they did it with Morgan. Well, Morgan had this turning point. Was like, I'm not going to kill anybody. I'll beat him up with my staff, but I'm not killing. But it just showed the hey, there's some people that just have to go. The fact that Gabriel did this, he's like, no, I'm not going to look for the good in this man just because he let us live this way. No, I'm not taking that chance. And he just killed him. That was awesome. So what did you guys think?
Yeah, this was the turning point for me. This is when I was like, oh, it made me just rethink everything that happened previously on this episode, because they were having a lot of conversations about life and what it means to be a good. Yes, and it's like, and then Gabriel was talking about how about bad people, and how I don't know exactly the quote, but kind of to paraphrase, he's saying sort of like bad people are the ones who set history, or the ones
they're the exclusion or the exception. The exception to the whole thing.
Yeah. So it's at this point they're not good people per se, but they got to do whatever they got to do to survive, and this is one of the calculated risks that Gabriel had to do within the whole conversation, It's like, I can't take this risk and take this guy back into Alexandria. So he, he did action, and it's something, like you mentioned, it's something he wouldn't have done a long time ago. So it was good to see, and it makes me want to go back to re-listen to those conversations that we're having, because I'm pretty sure a lot of the conversations that we're having, led to this moment, and there might have been a lot more insight than I was trying to take in when I first watched it.
Yeah, I felt like a lot of that conversation when they were drinking, and then even when they were sitting at the table, that was just filler. I'm like, they're just trying to kill time. I was like, just what's going to happen?
And I was expecting for them to just take him in. I'm like, oh, they're kind of going a roundabout way to just get another badass character into the story.
And it's a famous actor.
Yeah.
That's the other, right, Rich? You pointed out. It's like usually,
yeah, exactly.
When it's a famous actor, you don't expect them to get killed off like that. You expect them to stick around for a while because, like, oh well, just like they got Negan's a big part of the story, but just the characters themselves, the famous actors. When you bring in a big name actor, it's usually for a long period of time, or at least one season or something like this. You don't ever assume that, oh, we're going to bring this big name actor and we're just going to kill him off in this episode. And that's exactly what they did, because they didn't conk him on the head. He killed him. He put that sucker down.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was necessary for the character development of Gabriel. I mean, we remember, like y'all mentioned, we saw how this character was from the beginning of the show, and I think they needed to show that the character has gone through some things and transformed himself. But also, isn't this character in Aaron dead in the comics by this point in the storyline?
Yeah, there's some changes with this, yeah.
Okay,
and
so
even Gabriel, I remember right, it's been a while, but yeah, I'm pretty sure he was hanging at this point. He
was, yep, hanging.
Yeah, he was hanging from like the water tower, and it was during the Negan doing the whole big invasion, or was it? No, it was a Whispers.
Alpha and Beta.
Yeah, the Alpha and Beta thing. Yeah. So they are making some changes. They're definitely making some changes. So that's fine. Doesn't have to be word for word, scene for scene. So it's cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So right after that, this is when they start trying to figure out. It's like, well, this guy heard everything that we were saying. So he was hiding here. Where was he hiding? So they start looking around, and then they find a ladder, and they go into another little room. And yeah, this is where he's been living, right? They see a bunch of things and supplies. They see a picture. You see that guy, his name was Maze, right? And Maze and his brother. And then they point to their lantern a little further down, and then you see skeleton remains of two bodies. Looks like a child, right? And another adult body. And then you see the brother, and he's alive, and he's chained up. And they're like, oh, no, don't worry. We're here to help. And they're trying to calm him down. And go ahead, Rich. What happens here?
Well, trying to calm him down. They tried to. Gabriel tries to remove his chains. Grabs the gun. They think, hey, he's about to shoot us. Nope. Shoots himself. In a very tragic conclusion to. Both brothers that are now dead. Dead. You know what? The truth, as somebody who has a family, and we all have family. It doesn't matter. Anybody who has family, to see loved ones probably die in front of you like that, and then know that there's nothing you can do, and you're chained. And it's obviously he's probably just chained up because his brother, probably for two reasons: one, didn't have the heart to kill his own flesh and blood with his brother, and two, wanted somebody to talk to. So I'll just keep him chained up here. So I'm sure that whole entire time that guy just wanted to die. Mm-hmm.
I just can't live anymore. Because who knows? We don't know how the two died. His wife and the child. We don't know. Maybe they starved to death, or maybe he killed them. I mean, they didn't look like they turned. They looked like they were just dead.
Yeah, they just decomposed.
Yeah, they look
naturally
decomposed. The smell must have been horrific in that room. That's one thing. Two things that always bothered me with Walking Dead and a few other ones. They rarely acknowledge the smell. And it's hard to bring off camera unless the actor is like making that face or covering their nose. We never see that. And
that's why I don't want smell-o-vision.
you see, it smells. I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind. I was like, all right, this little sniff thing, or maybe in your controller, something squirts out. It's like, oh, it smells like ass. What was that?
Oh,
Like, oh, that came from Walking Dead. Oh, who's watching that shit? I thought we were watching something else. All right. So, yeah, it was sad. It was sad, but at that one point though, when they found the brother, I was like, oh, this is gonna be the full go around for Aaron, because Aaron said his main goal of going out there was trying to save people. He felt there were still people out there to save and bring back. Well, there you go. Now you're gonna save his brother. See, there was some good, because he was kind of conflicted when he saw Maze get killed the way he did, because I guess he thought maybe they could bring him back. I was like, well, no. Kid was like, no, we're not having any of that. But yeah, that's how this part ended, and I thought that was that, and we would just see roll credits. But no, they're going back out, and Gabriel looks out and he's like, "Hey, look, there's that water tower." And then Aaron was like, "Yeah, one more, let's do it." And then off they go, back on them to go and explore. We don't see what happens. I doubt we will see what happens. I have a feeling next episode we'll follow another group doing something else.
I feel like it'll be interesting if we get that water tower show where it's like them two completing their sort of travels together, or if we're just going to catch up back with them at Alexandria.
Yeah, we're going to catch up. I don't see them doing a two-parter with this. They'll probably come back and say, yeah, we found some Rice Krispie treats and peaches. Something stupid. That's it. I don't see them coming back with like, yo, we found 15 guys over here. One of them looks like Snake Eyes. And then, none of that stuff. That's not happening. Yeah, but it was all right. It's like that's the thing. When I read these comments online, when people start talking about Walking Dead, they're like, "Oh, it fell off. It's not the same." And it's like you have to understand where these 6 episodes are coming from, though. They're not. And it's hard because not everybody follows it. It's just like when over on Throwdown when we talk about games and we go in depth about the different developers working on it and what's going. The casuals don't give a shit. They don't know that stuff. They don't look into it. It's just whatever they see in front of them. And for the majority of Walking Dead fans or people that followed it before, like, oh, that show's still on. Let me tune in. Oh, this is... Where's all the action? Oh, come on now. Not understanding. I was like, yeah, this was done after the fact. This was... we had the COVID situation. They were trying to still produce content with the minimum amount of people on set. And so they were going to be heavy on the dialogue. They were going to do a lot of the backstory. And that's okay, especially if it's backstory that for certain characters that, like you said earlier, Carlos said, we didn't know much about. Or to see their growth. Like Gabriel, we knew some, but let's see, where does he stand now? How's he going with everything? And Aaron, and with his robo arm. But here we go. This is it. This was season 10, episode 19. One more. So, I don't know. Anybody, before we jump into anything else, I mean, final thoughts?
Yeah. It's like the last episode. This is kind of standalone, but I actually really enjoyed it because we got to see a story of 2 people that we don't normally get a lot of, except Father Gabriel. We kind of got a lot because of his whole story in Alexandria and his relationship, and now he's a father.
Okay, so he's got a baby, baby mama.
He's got a baby mama, and everything. So we've gotten that, but last we saw of him, he was getting rescued by Maggie and them. So, well, it's good to see him, just seeing what's going on and what he's thinking, and Aaron. I kind of like the fact that he still holds his whole past, like he wants to save people, he wants more people to join the crew, and he wants to do that. That's pretty cool too. And the twist is what made it, because at first I thought the episode is is just they're gonna talk and because they need to kill some time, but that twist is changed it all for me, and it was worthwhile. I thought.
Yeah, Rich.
It's not something that's gonna completely change everything. It's just standalone, and it was good. But yeah, that's pretty much all.
Yeah, I pretty much agree. I think they did a very good job considering as Adam mentioned, all of the challenges with having to film the show uh, on such a different schedule, and then the restrictions they had dealt with. Um, yeah, I mean, they just took time to tell, I guess you can say, a self-contained story about just catching up with these characters. Uh, and again, a very well shot scene. I know we didn't mention this earlier, but one of the things that I did think about when the show opened and it showed the flowers and the blood being splattered all over the flowers, I thought to the flashback
Yeah.
of Carol.
Oh yeah, it's like
Yeah,
look at the
Mhm.
flowers.
look at the flowers.
The
Yeah,
flowers.
so I have to give them credit for basically just trying to keep things interesting. My only thing is that I do hope that since they did have an episode with these two characters, that hopefully that means that they have plans for these two characters going into season 11. And my assumption is that everybody will not survive season 11, but I just hope that they do have some exciting things planned for Aaron and Gabriel moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why this episode is important, because we know it's inevitable that either one or two of these people or both of these people are going to die.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever they do die, at least we'll remember, how they were like in the show, instead of, just killing, someone that we barely knew and we barely got anything. So these episodes do matter.
I agree 100%.
Yeah, they do. So it's going to be interesting to see where they go with the next one, the next group. I don't think we're going to see Eugene, Princess, and Ezekiel and that whole thing. I don't think we're going to see that within these episodes for some reason. I guess because that's the heavy mainline story, and that's probably where they'll continue. Even though they did show that flashback in the last episode, they never brought it up. They never revisit that whole scene, and that definitely didn't happen in this one. So maybe in the last, right? Because what was it? Where I think we have like 3 more of these.
Yeah.
All right, we got 3 more of these. So maybe in the last one, that'll be the big tease, because that is a big part. The Commonwealth, that is definitely going to be the focal point for all of the last season. It has to be. That was also
they're the final boss.
Yeah, that's final boss.
Uh-oh.
That's
the final
it.
boss.
End game. They made
Get
it
in
to
there.
Oz.
Make
Make
sure to grind before you get to the final boss. You don't want to be in the low level and upgrade all your weapons.
Gotta upgrade.
Get all your
They gotta
health
get
boosters.
their game on. Yep. That's how it works.
Yep.
So we will
Oh, yeah.
see.
And I also did hear that we are going to get a Negan origin story in one of these upcoming episodes.
Beautiful.
So, yeah,
Beautiful.
that's confirmed. So I look forward to that whenever it happens.
Mm-hmm. There is, and for those, I don't know, if maybe some people have missed, but they did a one-off comic for Negan, and that came out over the summer. And that was just for comic book stores, so they can go and pick that up. They weren't trying to get business into stores, people into stores and stuff. But it's also digital now, so if you want, go pick that up. From what I understand, it's just going to be a one-off. If they continue it, that'll be great. But Workman, I think he just said this was it. This was just going to be a one-off. So.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, thanks again, everybody, for tuning in and listening and subscribing. Thanks for supporting Walking Dead and the I Am Negan podcast. I was your host, Adam Vale, joined by Richard and Carlos. And thanks. There we go. And thanks again for supporting the Koalition. And we will see you next week, people. Peace.
Peace out.